The wrench slipped from my greasy fingers as I heard my wife's voice drift through the kitchen window. Sam was on the phone again, that breathy laugh she used to save for me now reserved for someone else entirely. "I can't wait to see you tomorrow, Jake," she giggled. "Mike's working late at the shop again. He'll never know." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. If she giggled any harder, she'd choke on her own tongue. But there I was, Mike Sullivan, 43 years old, lying under my beat-up Ford pickup in our driveway like some cliché from a country song. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was literally under a truck while my marriage was getting run over by one. I'd suspected for months. Sam had been distant, always dressed up for work events that seemed to happen every other night. She'd started going to the gym religiously, buying new lingerie that I never got to see, and spending hours on her phone with that stupid, secretive smile plastered across her face. Our town of Millbrook wasn't exactly a thriving metropolis. Population 8,000 on a good day, with half the factories shut down and the other half hanging on by a thread. Everyone knew everyone else's business, which made keeping secrets nearly impossible. Unless apparently you were my wife. I crawled out from under the truck, wiping my hands on an old rag. Through the window, I could see Sam pacing around our kitchen, twirling her blonde hair like some teenager. At 39, she still looked good. Maybe too good for a grease monkey like me, at least according to her recent attitude. "You're so much more exciting than him," she continued into the phone. "Mike just comes home, drinks beer, and watches TV. You actually have ambition?" Ambition? Right. I'd been running Sullivan's auto repair for 15 years, built it from nothing after my boxing career ended with a busted shoulder. But apparently fixing engines and keeping the lights on wasn't ambitious enough for Sam's taste. I decided to do a little detective work of my own. Sam always left her tablet charging in the living room, and we shared the same Apple account. A few taps later, and I had everything I needed to know. Jake Morrison, 35, worked at the same real estate office as Sam. Gym rat with perfectly styled hair and a smile that screamed trust fund baby. The messages between them were explicit enough to make a sailor blush, complete with photos I definitely didn't want to see. But the real kicker was the receipt I found tucked in Sam's purse, the Riverside Inn, our town's fanciest hotel. Room 237, charged to her credit card 3 times in the past month. The same credit card I helped pay off every month with my unambitious mechanic wages. I could have confronted her right then. Could have screamed, thrown things, made a scene like any normal husband would. Instead, I did something that probably should have worried me. I started planning. The next evening, I found myself at Murphy's Tavern, our local dive bar where the beer was cheap and the lighting was dim enough to hide life's disappointments. Jake was there, naturally, probably celebrating another successful afternoon of destroying my marriage. He was everything I wasn't. Tall, clean, wearing a polo shirt that probably cost more than I made in a week. The kind of guy who'd never had motor oil under his fingernails or thrown a real punch in his life. "Mike!" Jake called out when he saw me, all fake friendliness. "How's it going, buddy?" Buddy. The word tasted like poison in the air between us. "Can't complain," I replied, settling onto the bar stool next to him. "Though I hear you've been keeping yourself busy lately." His face flickered with something, guilt, maybe, or fear, but he recovered quickly, flashing that $1,000,000 smile. "You know how it is? Work keeps me running around." "I bet it does." I signaled the bartender for 2 beers. "Hey, remember when we used to arm wrestle back in high school? You always said you'd beat me someday." Jake laughed, but there was nervousness in it. "That was 20 years ago, Mike. We're not kids anymore." "Come on," I insisted, rolling up my sleeves. For old time's sake. Unless you're worried about breaking a nail." The bar started paying attention. In a town like Millbrook, entertainment was scarce, and a potential showdown between the local mechanic and the pretty boy real estate agent was better than whatever game was on TV. Jake couldn't back down without looking like a coward, so he rolled up his expensive sleeves and planted his elbow on the scarred wooden bar. His hand was soft, manicured. Mine was calloused from years of honest work. "Ready?" I asked, gripping his hand. The contest lasted about 3 seconds. I could have ended it immediately, but I wanted to make a point. I let him strain against me, let him think he had a chance, then slowly, methodically, pressed his hand toward the bar. The tendons in his wrist began to stretch, and I could see panic creeping into his eyes. "Careful, Jake," I said quietly, so only he could hear. "Some things you grab onto will snap under pressure." I slammed his hand down hard enough to rattle the beer bottles. Jake pulled his hand back, flexing his fingers and trying to hide his wince. "Good game," he muttered, tossing a 20 on the bar and heading for the door. I followed him out to the parking lot, where his pristine BMW sat under the streetlight like a monument to everything wrong with the world. After he drove away, I took out my pocket knife and gave all 4 of his tires some much-needed ventilation. Mrs. Henderson from across the street was walking her dog and saw the whole thing. She just nodded at me and kept walking. In Millbrook, loyalty still meant something. The next morning, I was in my garage when I heard Sam's heels clicking across the kitchen floor upstairs. She was packing. I could hear drawers slamming and zippers closing. This was it. Showtime. I climbed the stairs and found her in our bedroom, stuffing clothes into her designer suitcase. She looked up at me with a smirk that could have cut glass. "I'm leaving, Mike," she announced, like she was reading the weather report. "I finally found someone better than you." I leaned against the doorframe, wiping my hands on a shop rag. "Jake, right? I'm afraid he has something to tell you." Her confident grin faltered slightly. "What are you talking about?" Instead of answering, I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text. "Get your ass to my kitchen, now." Sam's face went white. "Mike, what did you do?" "Nothing yet," I replied calmly. "But Jake and I had an interesting conversation last night after you went to bed." That was a lie, of course. But Jake didn't know that. And when my text message threatened to expose his affair to his boss, his wife, and half the town, he'd come running like a dog called to heel. 5 minutes later, Jake appeared in our kitchen doorway, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else on earth. Sam's jaw dropped so fast I thought it might unhinge completely. "Surprise," I said, unable to keep the satisfaction out of my voice. Jake stood in our kitchen looking like he'd seen a ghost, while Sam's face cycled through about 6 different shades of pale. The confident woman who'd been packing her bags 2 minutes ago had evaporated, replaced by someone who looked like she might throw up on our linoleum floor. "What the hell is going on?" Sam demanded, but her voice cracked like a teenager's. I walked over to the coffee pot and poured myself a cup, taking my sweet time. Let them sweat a little. "Jake here has something he needs to get off his chest. Don't you, Jake?" Jake's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. His perfectly styled hair was disheveled, and there were sweat stains under the arms of his expensive shirt. "Mike, I can explain." "Oh, I'm sure you can," I interrupted. "But here's the thing, Jake. I already know everything. The hotel rooms, the afternoon meetings, the little love notes you've been sending my wife. What I want to know is why you thought you could get away with it." Sam's suitcase hit the floor with a thud. "You've been spying on us." I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. "Spying? Sweetheart, you left your tablet open on the kitchen counter with all your messages displayed. A blind man could have figured this out." The truth was, I'd been gathering evidence for weeks. Screenshots, receipts, even a voice recording I'd made of Sam talking to Jake on the phone while she thought I was asleep. I'd learned a long time ago that in any fight, information was the most powerful weapon. "Look, Mike," Jake started, trying to find his backbone. "Sam and we didn't mean for this to happen. It just happened?" I set my coffee cup down hard enough to make both of them jump. "You just accidentally fell into my wife, multiple times, at the Riverside Inn?" Sam's face went from pale to red. "How did you—" "Your credit card statement's genius. The same credit card I help pay every month." I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through the photos I'd taken. Room 237, 3 times last month. They have security cameras in the lobby, by the way. Very clear footage. That was another lie, but they didn't know that. Jake looked like he might pass out. "What do you want?" Sam asked, and for the first time since this whole mess started, she sounded scared. "What do I want?" I repeated. "I want my cheating wife and her boyfriend to understand that actions have consequences. I want them to realize that the boring husband they've been laughing about isn't quite as stupid as they thought." I walked over to our kitchen table and spread out printouts of their text messages. Some of them were so explicit I'd had to read them twice to believe my own wife had written them. "My personal favorite," I said, pointing to one particularly nasty exchange, "is where you told Jake that I was too dumb to figure it out even if you left a trail of breadcrumbs." That one really hurt, Sam. Jake tried to edge toward the door, but I blocked his path. "Where are you going, Romeo? We're just getting started." "Mike, please," Sam said, and there were actually tears in her eyes now. "We can work this out. We can go to counseling." "Counseling?" I laughed again. "You want to go to counseling after you've been screwing your coworker for months? After you've been using my money to pay for hotel rooms? After you've been telling him how pathetic your husband is?" I pulled out another piece of paper, a bank statement showing the withdrawals from our joint account. "Did you know Jake's been borrowing money from you, Sam? $2,000 last month alone. Apparently his successful real estate career isn't going so well. Sam whirled on Jake. You told me you were doing great. You said you were making 6 figures. Jake's face went red. I am doing great. That was just temporary. Temporary, I interrupted. According to the public records I looked up, you haven't closed a sale in 3 months. Your car payments are 2 months behind, and you're about to be evicted from your apartment. The look on Sam's face was priceless. Her knight in shining armor was turning out to be more like a court jester in aluminum foil. You lied to me, she said to Jake, her voice barely above a whisper. Everyone lies, Sam, I said. The question is, what are we going to do about it? That's when my daughter Emily walked into the kitchen. At 17, she had my dark hair and her mother's stubborn streak, along with a teenager's perfect timing for dramatic moments. What's going on? She asked, looking between the 3 of us. And why does Jake look like he's about to throw up? Sam rushed over to her. Emily, honey, go to your room. The adults need to talk. But Emily was sharp. She looked at the papers scattered across the table, at her mother's red eyes, at Jake's guilty expression. Oh my God, she said. Mom, are you cheating on Dad? And the silence that followed was deafening. Sam opened her mouth, but no words came out. Yeah, I said quietly. She is. Emily's face went through the same color changes her mother's had, but she landed on anger instead of fear. How could you do this to Dad? To our family? It's complicated, Sam started. It's not complicated, Emily shouted. You're a cheater, and you, she turned to Jake, you're disgusting. She stormed out of the kitchen, and a few seconds later we heard her bedroom door slam hard enough to rattle the windows. Now look what you've done, Sam said to me. What I've done? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm not the one who destroyed our family, Sam. That's all on you. Jake finally found his voice. Maybe I should go? You're not going anywhere, I said. Not until we settle this. Settle what? Sam asked. I smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. Well, I figure you two have some choices to make. You can come clean to everyone, your boss, your friends, Emily's school counselor who you've been lying to about our perfect family, or I can do it for you. You wouldn't, Sam breathed. Try me, I said. I've got nothing left to lose, thanks to you. The kitchen fell silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the sound of Jake's panicked breathing. Outside, I could hear Mrs. Henderson's dog barking, probably at a squirrel. Normal life continuing while mine fell apart. But here's the thing about hitting rock bottom. It gives you a certain kind of freedom. When you've got nothing left to lose, you can afford to play hardball. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice calm and steady. You two are going to sit down and write out a full confession. Every detail, every lie, every hotel room. Then you're going to decide how you want this story to end. And if we don't? Jake asked, trying to sound tough but failing miserably. I picked up my coffee cup and took a slow sip. Then I guess we'll find out just how boring this old mechanic really is. 2 days later, I was setting up folding tables in my backyard for our annual neighborhood barbecue. It was a tradition Sam had started 5 years ago, her way of showing off our perfect marriage to the whole street. The irony was delicious. Sam had been walking around the house like a ghost since our kitchen confrontation. She'd tried to talk to Emily, but our daughter wasn't having it. She'd tried to talk to me, but I'd made it clear that conversation time was over. Jake had been calling nonstop, but Sam wasn't answering. You don't have to do this, Sam said, carrying a bowl of potato salad out to the backyard. Her hands were shaking. Do what? I asked, testing the projector I'd borrowed from my buddy Pete at the gym. Throw a barbecue? It's tradition, Sam. You wouldn't want to disappoint the neighbors, would you? She set the bowl down and grabbed my arm. Mike, please. I know I messed up, but this is insane. Think about Emily. Think about what this will do to her. I looked at my wife, really looked at her, the woman I'd married 20 years ago, who'd promised to love and honor me through better and worse. She was still beautiful, still the girl who'd laughed at my terrible jokes and held my hand through my mother's funeral. But that woman was gone. In her place stood a stranger who'd been lying to my face for months, who'd been spending our money on hotel rooms with another man, who'd been planning to leave me for someone better. I did think about Emily, I said, pulling my arm free. I thought about how she deserves to know the truth about her mother. I thought about how she deserves to see that actions have consequences. The neighbors will be here any minute, Sam pleaded. Whatever you're planning, don't do it in front of everyone. But it was too late. The Henderson family was already walking across the street, carrying a covered dish. Behind them came the Johnsons from next door and the Martinez family from the corner house. Within 20 minutes, my backyard was full of neighbors, friends, and their kids. Pete showed up with his wife Carol, giving me a knowing nod. I'd filled him in on the situation, and he'd offered to help with whatever I needed. That's what real friends do. They have your back when the world goes to hell. Great turnout this year, Pete said, grabbing a beer from the cooler. You ready for this? As ready as I'll ever be, I replied. Sam was working the crowd like a politician, all fake smiles and nervous laughter. She kept glancing at me, probably wondering when the other shoe was going to drop. Jake hadn't shown up, which was smart on his part. After everyone had eaten and the kids were playing in the yard, I stood up and tapped my beer bottle with a fork. Can I have everyone's attention? The crowd quieted down, turning to face me. Sam's face went white. I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out tonight, I began. Sam and I have been hosting this barbecue for 5 years now, and it's always been about celebrating our community, our friendships, and our families. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Mrs. Henderson called out, "Here, here." This year's a little special, I continued, because I've put together a little slideshow of memories from the past year. Sam's been so busy with work lately, I thought it would be nice to show everyone what she's been up to. I clicked the remote, and the projector screen lit up with a photo of Sam at her real estate office. Nothing suspicious there. The crowd smiled and nodded. The second slide was Sam at a work conference, still innocent. The third slide was a screenshot of a text message from Sam to Jake. I can't wait to feel your hands on me again. The crowd went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop in the grass. Oops, I said, clicking to the next slide. Wrong folder. But I didn't change it. The next slide was even worse, a photo Jake had sent to Sam that I definitely couldn't describe in polite company. Sam lunged for the projector, but Pete stepped in her way. I think people want to see the rest of the show, Sam. The crowd was starting to murmur, some people standing up to get a better look. Mrs. Henderson had her hand over her mouth. Mr. Johnson was shaking his head in disgust. Mike, stop this, Sam screamed, but her voice was lost in the growing noise from the crowd. I clicked through a few more slides. Hotel receipts, more text messages, even a voice recording of Sam telling Jake how much she loved him. By the time I was done, half the neighborhood was staring at Sam like she'd grown a second head. Well, I said, turning off the projector. I guess that's what my wife's been up to this year. Anyone want dessert? Sam was crying now, big ugly tears that smeared her makeup. She tried to run toward the house, but Emily was standing in the back door, arms crossed, blocking her way. How could you do this to Dad? Emily said, loud enough for everyone to hear. How could you do this to us? Emily, please, Sam started. No, Emily shouted. You're disgusting, both of you. That's when Jake chose to make his grand entrance. He came stumbling around the side of the house, probably drunk, definitely stupid. When he saw the crowd staring at him, he tried to back away, but it was too late. Pete grabbed him by the shirt and dragged him into the middle of the yard. Look what we have here, folks, the other half of the happy couple. Jake tried to swing at Pete, which was his second mistake of the evening. Pete had been a boxer too, back in the day, and he still had fast hands. Jake went down like a sack of potatoes, blood streaming from his nose. The crowd was getting ugly now. These were working-class people who believed in marriage and family and doing right by your neighbors. What Sam and Jake had done was unforgivable in their eyes. Get out of here, Mrs. Henderson yelled at Jake. You homewrecker. Disgusting, added Mrs. Johnson. Jake scrambled to his feet and ran for his car, leaving Sam standing alone in the middle of the hostile crowd. She looked around desperately, but there was no sympathy to be found. I think the party's over, I announced. Thanks for coming, everyone. As the neighbors filed out, they made sure to let Sam know exactly what they thought of her. By the time the yard was empty, she was sitting on the ground, sobbing into her hands. Feel better now? She asked me through her tears. Actually, I said, I do. But I wasn't done yet, not even close. The next morning, I woke up to find Sam's side of the bed empty. For a moment, I thought she might have finally left. But then I heard her in the kitchen, talking on the phone in hushed, desperate tones. Marissa, you have to help me, she was saying. Mike's lost his mind. He humiliated me in front of the entire neighborhood. Marissa Chen was Sam's business partner and best friend, a sharp-dressed woman with perfectly styled black hair and the kind of smile that never reached her eyes. She'd never liked me, and the feeling was mutual. I crept down the stairs and listened from the hallway. We need to turn this around, Sam continued. Make him look like the bad guy. You said you had a plan? I've been waiting for this opportunity for years, Marissa's voice came through the phone speaker. That bastard cost me everything when he got my brother fired. Now it's payback time. My blood ran cold. Marissa's brother Danny had worked at the garage where I'd been employed before starting my own shop. He'd been stealing parts and selling them on the side. When I'd caught him and reported it to the boss, he'd been fired and eventually arrested, but I'd never connected him to Marissa. "So, you've been planning this?" Sam asked. "For 5 years," Marissa replied. "I pushed you toward Jake, made sure you'd get caught eventually. I knew Mike would overreact, and now we can use that against him." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. This whole thing, the affair, the humiliation, the destruction of my marriage, it had all been orchestrated by a woman seeking revenge for something her criminal brother had brought on himself. "What do we do now?" Sam asked. "We're going to file a restraining order," Marissa said. "Claim he threatened you, that you're afraid for your safety. Then we'll take him for everything he's worth in the divorce." I'd heard enough. I pulled out my phone and started recording, then stepped into the kitchen. "Morning, ladies," I said pleasantly. "Don't mind me, just getting some coffee." Sam nearly dropped the phone. "Mike, I didn't know you were awake." "Oh, I've been awake for a while," I said, pouring myself a cup. "Heard some very interesting conversation. Hi, Marissa." "Go to hell, Mike," Marissa's voice crackled through the speaker. "Already there, thanks to you," I replied. "But here's the thing about hell. It's taught me some new tricks." I held up my phone, showing the recording app. Conspiracy, fraud, false accusations. I'm pretty sure the State Bar Association would be very interested in hearing about a lawyer who coaches clients to file false restraining orders. The line went dead. Marissa had hung up. Sam stared at me with a mixture of fear and hatred. "You recorded us?" "Just like you recorded our marriage ending," I said. "Turnabout's fair play." That afternoon, I paid a visit to Marissa's law office. It was one of those sleek, modern places with glass walls and expensive furniture designed to intimidate people like me. But I wasn't intimidated anymore. The receptionist tried to tell me Marissa was busy, but I walked past her desk and straight into the corner office where Marissa was sitting behind a desk the size of a small car. "You can't be in here," she said, reaching for her phone. "I'm calling security." "Go ahead," I said, settling into the chair across from her desk. I'm sure they'd love to hear the recording I made this morning. Her hand froze over the phone. "What do you want?" "I want you to understand something," I said, leaning forward. "You destroyed my marriage to get back at me for your brother's crimes. You manipulated my wife, broke up my family, and traumatized my daughter, all for revenge." "Your family was already broken," she sneered. "I just helped it along." "Maybe," I admitted. "But you made it personal, and now I'm going to return the favor." I pulled out a folder and spread its contents across her expensive desk. Bank statements, tax returns, client files, information that had taken me 3 days and several favors to gather. "You've been skimming money from your clients' escrow accounts," I said. "Small amounts, nothing that would be noticed individually, but it adds up to about $50,000 over the past 2 years. Her face went pale. "That's impossible. You're bluffing." "Am I?" I pointed to a highlighted entry on one of the statements. "The Henderson account. You were supposed to hold their house deposit in escrow for 30 days. Instead, you invested it in your personal stock portfolio and replaced it when the deal closed. That's a felony, Marissa." She tried to maintain her composure, but I could see the cracks forming. "You can't prove anything." "Actually, I can." I pulled out another document. "Your brother Danny kept records of everything. Turns out prison gives you a lot of time to think about who really screwed you over. He's been keeping track of your little embezzlement scheme, waiting for the right moment to use it." That was a lie. Danny was still in prison and had no idea what his sister was up to. But Marissa didn't know that. "He contacted me last week," I continued. "Seems he blames you for not bailing him out when he got arrested. Family loyalty only goes so far, I guess." Marissa's hands were shaking now. "What do you want?" "I want you to disappear," I said simply. "Close your practice, leave town, and never contact my family again. Do that, and maybe these documents never make it to the district attorney's office." "And if I don't?" I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then you'll find out what it's like to share a cell with someone who doesn't appreciate lawyers." I stood up and headed for the door, then turned back. "Oh, and Marissa, if you ever try to hurt my family again, I won't be nearly this nice about it." 2 days later, Marissa's law office was closed. According to the building manager, she'd broken her lease and disappeared overnight. Sam tried calling her for days, but the number was disconnected. With her puppet master gone, Sam seemed to deflate like a punctured balloon. She moved into the guest bedroom and started talking about counseling again, but we both knew it was too late for that. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday morning. Sam had found a new lawyer, someone who specialized in high-conflict cases. She was asking for half of everything, plus alimony and child support. But I had one more card to play. That evening, I called Emily into my home office. At 17, she was old enough to understand what was happening to our family and old enough to make her own choices. Your mother's filing for divorce, I told her. She's asking for custody. Emily's face hardened. I'm not going with her. You might not have a choice, I said. Unless what? I pulled out a document I'd been preparing. Unless you're willing to tell a judge exactly what you think about your mother's choices. Emily read through the affidavit, her expression growing more determined with each page. When she finished, she looked up at me with eyes that reminded me of my own. Where do I sign? She asked. The custody hearing was scheduled for the following month, but it never happened. When Sam's lawyer saw Emily's statement, 17 pages detailing every lie, every betrayal, every moment of pain her mother had caused, he advised Sam to settle out of court. In the end, Sam got her freedom and nothing else. No alimony, no house, no custody. She moved to another state with what was left of her savings and a reputation that followed her wherever she went. Jake had already disappeared, probably to find another married woman to seduce in another town. As for me, I kept the house, the business, and my daughter. Most importantly, I kept my self-respect. Sometimes at night, I still think about the woman I married 20 years ago, before she became someone I didn't recognize. I wonder if she ever thinks about what she threw away, if she ever regrets the choices that destroyed our family. But mostly, I don't think about her at all, because some things, once broken, aren't worth fixing.